Everyone who plays League has that one skin line or theme they absolutely love. You know, wanting to see their favorite champion included in it. Sometimes even making fan art or spreading it around the community. And honestly, Riot has taken full advantage of that over the years, either by creating new skin lines inspired by those fan ideas, or by seeing that a certain champion would actually be well received in a specific alternate universe. But it's also the fact that Riot completely neglects some older skin lines, ones that never got expanded worlds or updates, and now they're basically abandoned, which in my opinion is such a huge waste, especially considering that Riot has already reinvented some skin lines that used to be pretty weak or boring. The High Noon line is the best example of that. It was completely reworked back in 2018, turning it into something way darker and more gothic with divine and demonic elements at its core. So today, I'm gonna show you 4 skin lines that desperately need to be remembered and revived by Riot. But before that, I want to mention our store. There's a lot of really cool designs available and tons of products, so go check them out, links in the description. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe, drop a like on the video, and maybe consider becoming a member to get access to a bunch of cool perks. The Zombies vs. Slayers universe started all the way back on October 19th, 2010, with the old Rise, when he got a solo undead themed skin that costed 975 RP to celebrate that year's Halloween event. Even though it was simple, there were a few things that made the skin really special and unique. For example, Rise had a part of his brain exposed, one of his arms was just bone with no flesh left, and he was missing a boot. In game, he kept all of those features, but he didn't have any special visual effects on his abilities. Still, it totally reflected the time when Riot actually had the guts to make something grotesque and genuinely creepy. Completely different from the garbage this skin looks like today, where he basically just looks like a bald dude painted green, glowing like a razor mouse. Anyway, the next addition to this undead theme came out during Halloween of 2012 with Zombie Brand, which was absolutely badass. It's still considered one of the best skins ever made in that tier. Then for Halloween 2015, a new wave arrived, this time bringing 3 new skins. Nunu and Willem joined the zombie side, while Jinx and Pantheon became a duo of former mechanics turned zombie slayers. And man, they even had a login screen with a theme song for it. You could see Jinx and Pantheon standing together, fighting off a horde, with Nunu in the background, probably the one summoning the rest of the zombies. That's when the Zombies vs. Slayers skin line was officially established. The universe was actually inspired by the franchise The Walking Dead, and games like Left 4 Dead and Zombie Tycoon. There are also some really creative details about the Slayer skins. For example, Jinx was originally planned to be a regular survivor in a real-world zombie apocalypse, but the team thought it would be way cooler to make her a zombie slayer instead. When someone first brought up the idea of having zombie hunters in this universe, her name was the very first one that came up for almost the entire team. And check this out, Jinx's whole weapon arsenal is made from homemade stuff. Her minigun is built from a V-twin motorcycle engine, Fishbones turned into a Molotov launcher, Zap becomes a taser pistol, her trap grenades are replaced by chomping head-shaped mines, and her super mega death rocket turns into a propane tank with bundles of dynamite tied to them. As for Pantheon, his spear is replaced by metal pipes connected to a chainsaw, and his shield becomes a manhole cover. According to the wiki, it even has a do not enter sign attached to it, though I couldn't really see that myself. And finally, he's got fire extinguishers strapped to his backpack that let him propel forward over the zombies during his ult. The lore of this universe basically starts with the creation and outbreak of a mutagenic virus, developed deep inside a secret government facility by Brand, who was once a renowned military scientist, but the same government that once praised him eventually cut his funding. So after getting shut down, Brand took the virus he'd been working on and tested it on himself, which ended in a total disaster. He probably became Patient Zero, spreading the infection that wiped out humanity. Meanwhile, in a world already consumed by the virus, Rise became obsessed with finding a cure for the plague that had wiped out almost everyone. He started searching every corner of the planet, looking for any kind of medical or even mystical research that could help. He actually got close to finding an answer, but in the end, he succumbed to the very same virus he was trying to destroy. As for Nunu and Willem, they were just 2 friends who became victims of the virus, which was intentionally released. They ended up turning into a parasitic ticking time bomb, loaded with mutagenic material meant to infect the remaining survivors. But unfortunately, it's been exactly 10 years now since we've had a single new skin in this theme. It's basically been forgotten by Riot, which is honestly honestly insane considering how insanely popular zombies have always been. Riot could have totally ridden the wave of zombie-themed movies and shows to give this line a comeback, like when the Korean movie Train to Busan blew up, or more recently with the Marvel Zombies spin-off series. Not to mention there's a Resident Evil 9 Requiem coming soon, which could have been another perfect opportunity for Riot to jump in on the trend and bring these skins back from the dead. There was even a post on Reddit discussing the return of Zombies vs. Slayers, showing an awesome concept featuring Gwen and Pike as new Slayers. And you can totally see that both of them would have been people infected by the zombie virus, but who still managed to keep their personalities. And man, it looked absolutely badass. But it also reminded me of that zombie apocalypse high school anime called High School of the Dead, which was super famous back in the day because of its, let's just say, unique art style and its super over-the-top bullet time effects, kinda like The Matrix, but taken a whole new level. It had some pretty viral and memorable scenes, and yeah, we all know exactly why. And honestly, knowing Riot's track record with that kind of stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that too. But hey, if you wanted something a bit more colorful, that's fine too. Riot could totally take inspiration from Lollipop Chainsaw, that PlayStation 3 era game. They could easily make a Gwen skin of that kind of vibe, especially since she already fits undead in her original lore, specifically specters. Back to that Reddit post though. The author also made a list of champions who would fit perfectly into this theme. Renata Glass would actually be a great pick, but I wouldn't make her the mad scientist who started the outbreak like the post suggested. For me, Renata would be someone from the government who secretly funded the research for the mutagenic virus, then staged a coup to take Brand out of the picture and keep the whole project for herself. She could even have a strain of infection based on the original virus, basically becoming the Albert Wesker of this universe. A zombie ergot would look absolutely insane, like a biological weapon loaded with high ballistic power, sent by Renata to wipe out the Slayers. They could even make him look as ugly as his old self just to make a better reference to Nemesis from Resident Evil 3. And honestly, he'd fit perfectly with Talos T-011 from Resident Evil, The Umbrella Chronicles. Kane would be another really cool addition. I imagine his infection process being similar to the character Ikoma, the protagonist from the anime Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress. You'd see his arm and eye overtaken by the virus. His Rost form would represent the virus completely taking over, transforming him fully, while his assassin form could show him somehow developing immunity, becoming a conscious zombie, basically still human but stronger and better. And for that final choice from that Reddit user, we've got Graves, because come on, it's always awesome having a guy like him blasting zombie heads with a shotgun in a post-apocalyptic world. Now, here's a few champions I'd personally add to the list. On the Slayer's side, Jace would be a perfect choice, taking on a key role as a scientist for the Resistance. And to complete the Arcane trio, Caitlyn and Vi would also fit perfectly. Now, for the infected side, I'd start with Briar. She could be a zombie or some kind of highly aggressive biological weapon, echoing her blood-frenzied state, but maybe contained and used as a test subject to help researchers learn more about the virus and find a cure. They could have even made progress on that, with Briar showing small signs of awareness and intelligence, becoming calmer. Kinda like how she's more chill in the main universe while still being restrained by that metal pillory with that hemolith gem embedded in it. And honestly, it would be awesome having a super powerful zombie who fights against the other zombies. And fun fact, something kinda like that already happened with Primordian Briar in the Anima Squad universe. At first, she was a villain, but not really evil. She just couldn't control herself, even showing curiosity and affection towards humans. After being captured and reprogrammed by the squad, she became one of their most important allies, best friends with Jinx, and a primary research subject for Aurora. Another champion that would fit perfectly is Neferi. Just think about the infected dogs from Resident Evil. You've got the Cerberus, which were Dobermans trained for military purposes and later infected by the T-virus, and the Colmillos, which were wolves infected with the Las Plagas parasite. And last but definitely not least, we could have Victor as the Herald of Infection, in a vibe similar to Osmond Sadler from Resident Evil 4 or Mother Miranda from Resident Evil 8. In this version, Victor could be an intelligent infected being who truly believes that the virus is the key for humanity to evolve and transcend. Honestly, Riot could at least drop one skin from this line as a test, just to see how the community reacts. And if the reception's good, they could slowly add more. It would be awesome to see a new game mode like Invasion from Star Guardian or Swarm from Anima Squad, but with a full-on zombie theme. This skin line started with headhunter Rengar on August 21st, 2012. And honestly, it's such a clear reference to the Yacha series from the Predator franchise. This theme takes place in a dystopian future where alien hunters roam freely, and every character is equipped with high-tech hunting gear. For some of these species, hunting isn't just a sport, it's something that shapes their entire minds and bodies, turning them into a race of perfect killing machines. I'm not gonna go over each champion's individual lore like I did with the ones from the zombie universe, but what I can say is that this theme is definitely one of the best when it comes to playing homage and having amazing visual effects. Rengar, for example, when he uses his ultimate, looks like the Predator activating his cloak. And speaking of Predator, Riot is really missing a golden opportunity right now. The new movie in the franchise, Predator Badlands, is set to release on November 6th. And dude, if you look at the story of the movie's protagonist, Deck, it's actually super similar to Rengar's. Both of them were the youngest in their litters and ended up being smaller and weaker than normal. In other words, they were considered runts, short, underdeveloped, and unfit to be hunters. Their parents were leaders of their families or tribes, and they both saw their youngest as mistakes and disappointments, never recognizing them or giving them a chance to prove their worth. And let's be real, there are plenty of champions in League who'd fit perfectly in the headhunter line. Take Kasante, for example. In his lore, he swore from a young age that he'd become the greatest hunter of Nezuma. He trained for years in martial arts with several teachers, since Nezuma's enemies were relentless predators. He even learned from Nezuman scholars how to craft ingenious weapons from the materials of formidable beasts he defeated. And get this, the guy's already taken down some seriously terrifying creatures, including entire packs of Zirshai, which were the offspring of Rek'Sai. Not to mention, he became obsessed with killing this lion serpent creature that could regenerate from any wound, from its head all the way down to its tail, making it practically invincible. And honestly, considering he's got mostly mid-tier skins, this would be the perfect chance for him to finally get a really good one. Another champion who'd fit in easily is Pyke. Since he was young, he never feared being a sea monster hunter in Bilgewater. He'd literally leap onto a beast and drive 2 harpoons into its flesh with his bare hands before carving it up alive to harvest fresh organs. And we all know that he lost his mind after being swallowed by a jawfish. The magical oils inside that creature are what turned Pyke into a revenant and keep manipulating him to constantly kill captains and update his endless list of victims. So it'd be awesome to see Pyke as a headhunter who, during a hunt, gets left behind to face a monster so powerful that even the other hunters back off. He'd become obsessed with that beast and start hunting down other headhunters instead. In the Predator franchise, there are actually Yautja that hunt other Yautja. They were even shown in the 2010 movie Predators, and they're also known as Bad Bloods. Adapting that idea for Pyke would be sick. And the third and last champion on this list would be Varus. His body was literally forged from merging 2 incredibly skilled Ionian hunters, Kai and Valmar. The Varus comic actually opens with both of them hunting together in the forest, and honestly, that design looks so damn cool on him. Also, one great way to expand the Headhunter universe would be to create its counterpart. If the Headhunters are based on the Predator, their enemies should obviously be inspired by the aliens, meaning the Xenomorphs. And funny thing is, a lot of the first generation Voidborn are already inspired by the Xenomorphs. In fact, the cover art for the short story Monstrosity shows Kaisa posing monstrously over a skull of a void creature that straight up looks like a Xenomorph. And since we're already talking about Kaisa, Riot could totally include her on that opposite side too. Maybe as a hunter who ended up merging with the very alien creature she tried to take down. Now she'd be seen as something dishonorable by the other hunters. Her look could even take some inspiration from the Pred alien from Alien vs Predator 2. And honestly, that would finally give Riot a way to introduce her symbiotic suit into one of their skin universes. That thing is basically her signature, but they always ignore it in every single skin. Even in the Star Guardian line, where the Void actually exists, they didn't even bother adapting the suit at all. But back to the main topic, I think Cho'Gath, Kha'Zix, and Kog'Maw would make great skins inspired by the Xenomorph. Vel'Koz might fit too, if Riot really pushed their creativity a bit. But the one that honestly fits the best is Rek'Sai. To me, she already draws a lot from the essence of the Alien Queen, especially the one from Aliens. I really hope Riot hunts down a rework for this theme someday. the gothic and emo skin line is actually kind of a special exception, and you'll see why in a second. Even though this universe is dark and moody, it's honestly pretty funny. Seriously, when you open its page on the wiki to check the info about it, the lore section literally just says one single sentence: it's not a phase. Unfortunately, this universe stayed forgotten for years. It started with Goth Annie back in 2009, then came Imumu in 2010, and finally Gothic Oriana in 2011. Then in early 2022, Riot ran a poll to find out which old skin line the community wanted to see brought back from the dead. The Gothic theme went up against Arcana and Infernal, and it won by a landslide. Riot promised they'd create a more solid universe for this line and see how it looked today. But if you thought the champions were gonna get skins showing them as depressed teenagers listening to My Chemical Romance or Evanescence, locked in their rooms, like those fan arts showing the main characters from Arcane, well, you'd be wrong. They did make a universe, and yeah, it was gothic, but not the kind of typical gothic vibe people expected from the original 3 skins. It was more of a Tim Burton style gothic, and for a lot of people, he's like the main guy who spread that aesthetic through all of the animated movies and films he directed over the years. That's how the Fright Night skins were born, inspired by stuff like The Nightmare Before Christmas, Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, and even the Addams Family. I know that last one isn't originally his creation, but he was the executive producer for the Wednesday series and directed 4 of the 8 episodes in season 1, as well as in season 2. Anyway, the release of the new skin line was actually pretty well received. People really liked it, but a lot of fans complained that it didn't feel connected to the original skins, and it isn't what they expected. For example, if you look at Gothic Oriana, it's super clear that she's more about the aesthetic and fashion side of the Gothic culture, and the version from Wild Rift actually improved a lot on the old one from the PC version of League. Imumu, on the other hand, goes for a more stereotypical vibe, including that classic "it's not a phase" reference. His skin even reminds me of the goth kids from South Park, and his dance animation is literally a reference to their dance from the show. And honestly, it wouldn't have been too hard for Riot to stick closer to that darker tone based on the original material. Gwen, for example, should have been mandatory for this line. Ever since her concept stage, she's had that gothic Lolita look going on, and other champions could totally fit the theme because of their lore too. Like Set, who's got that metalhead punk vibe, always brawling and probably holding a ton of resentment towards his dad for abandoning him. Morgana can't stand her mother, fought with her twin sister, and whose father literally died of heartbreak because of all of that. Viego, stuck in an eternal mourning and obsession over Isolde. Yorick, trapped in his miserable endless labor. Even champions who are the complete opposite of the theme could work and offer a fresh take, like Lux, for example. She's basically the queen of optimism and double rainbows, but in a gothic skin, they could focus on her sadness and fear, which are actually parts of her main version, showing her as a more depressed and anxious about being a mage, especially since her family is super radical and anti-mage. Her Elementalist Lux Darkness form already kind of shows a gothic Lux in terms of visual, voice lines, and attitude. Riot could have totally taken advantage of the hype from the Wednesday series and made a ton of money with that. They even made a concept for a Gwen Wednesday skin, and honestly, it fits perfectly, blending the classic gothic skins with the new ones. Anyway, let's get into some facts about this theme. So, did you guys know that Goth Annie and Imumu almost appeared in a completely different skin line? Yeah, in one of the concept arts for Nightmare Cook's Morgana, you can actually see both of them in the background, suggesting they were her employees or assistants. Now, for Gothic Oriana in Wild Rift, she actually had 3 different concepts for her splash art. Concept B is honestly kinda depressing, because it would have shown Oriana looking at herself in the mirror and realizing she's no longer even human because of her appearance. Then there's Concept C, which shows her dancing sadly with other dolls, implying that she just feels like another toy. And that becomes even clearer when you notice all of the other dolls have puppet strings, just like Oriana. And did you know that Goth Annie's splash art was actually censored once? Yeah, the oldest versions, both the American and Chinese ones, were notably different. The American splash showed Annie with this dark, somber expression, wearing smudged black makeup, but the Chinese version had her smiling happily with perfect makeup. So Riot just decided to change the American one to match the Chinese version. What can I say, man? China's gonna take over the world someday. That change really annoyed a lot of players, and after a while, Riot decided to redo the splash art and make both sides happy. They kept Annie smiling, but gave her smudged makeup and a creepier, darker vibe instead of that cheerful one. In the end, they went with option B, and I've gotta say, Riot actually nailed it. The final result looked amazing, and it finally ended all of that debate. Who knows, maybe one day they'll also settle the debate about bringing the classic gothic skins back too. Let's at least have a little hope, right? I mean, in Arcane we saw Vi go full-on emo metalhead mode for a while, even covering her hair and face in grease. And that version actually made it into the games as Arcane Brawler Vi, which even got a legendary tier skin. This one's considered the worst skin line in League. It literally only has like 2 champions in it. The main one is Nunu, who one day just wakes up in this world made entirely of paper. He creates Willem, and together they go looking for his mom. But then they get stopped by Papercraft Anivia, who tells them that they can't climb to the top of the mountain or Nunu's mom is gonna get mad. Both of them get confused, like what do we even do now? And yeah, that's basically all we know about this universe. Yeah, it sucks, but there's actually some people who like the idea and try to make it better. For example, the artist Gary Vonica made a concept for Papercraft Quinn, but with a more of an origami style vibe. I'll see you guys in the next video.